It's U of L Today on 93.9 The Ville. Here's your host, Mark Hebert.
Welcome to U of L Today with Mark Hebert on 93.9 The Ville. As many of you know who hear this program from time to time, it's a show about all things University of Louisville. Research, students, programming going on at U of L. And those are some of the things we'll be talking about here in the next half hour or so. So on the show today, U of L has a program to help businesses save money on their energy use. We'll be talking about that in the second half of the show. But first, did you know alcohol could be good for you? Did you know you have millions of microbiota bacteria in your gut, which has all sorts of ramifications on your overall health? I bet you didn't know that. Well, Dr. Craig McClain wears a number of hats at the University of Louisville, and one of them is the Chief of Research Affairs in the Division of Gastroenterology, Hepatology, and Nutrition. And he's doing research in both these areas, and he's here to discuss booze and bacteria. Craig, good to see you. How you doing?
Mark, great to be here.
Good to see you. All right. So, booze and bacteria, huh? That's your areas of expertise?
At least a couple of them, and this is a great time of year to talk about that, too.
About booze, yes, for sure, because of the holidays, everybody's going to holiday parties and things.
So we want you to feel good about drinking.
You feel good about drinking? Well, some people feel good about it. Some people feel bad about it
Right.
in the morning. All right. Well, let's talk first about the alcohol center that the University of Louisville has that you're kind of heading up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we're really excited, Mark, that we got funded a little bit over a year ago. This is a big grant from the NIH, and it pays us to do alcohol research into problems that alcohol causes, but we're also trying to figure out how to prevent those. And we also look at healthy drinking, which is what we're going to talk about today.
Okay. Well, is there such a thing as healthy drinking?
Well, actually, there is. And in fact, there's a big webinar tomorrow on this topic, but there's a thing called the U.S. Dietary Guidelines. And I think we're in our 8th edition of it now. So nutrition experts from all over the country come together and basically give guidelines for the United States on healthy drinking or healthy eating. Mm-hmm. And there is theoretically healthy drinking in there. So for a female, that would be 1 drink or less a day. And for a male, that's 2 drinks or less a day. And it's important that it's a day. So for a female, 1 drink a day over a week isn't the same as 7 drinks on Saturday.
So don't do it all at one time, right?
Right.
And where did the concept of that there might be some healthy drinking and some good things about drinking, where did that even come from? I mean, because you normally think of, well, alcohol is not a good thing. You hear a glass of red wine might be good for the heart. You've heard that for years. But you don't normally hear, hey, having a beer might be good for you.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right that the wine thing kind of was where it all took off, that you and I are both old enough to remember this. So Morley Safer, I think in 1991, had a show on 60 Minutes where he was talking about what was called the French paradox, where in France they eat, back then at least, they ate a diet that was fairly high in fat, but yet they didn't have many heart attacks. And so the question was, why is that? And one of the concepts that evolved was maybe it was the wine that they drank and maybe the good things in the wine like polyphenols or resveratrol. Mm-hmm. But then further research showed that it wasn't just wine, it was any kind of alcohol in low amounts was protective. And they looked first at the heart, and there's this thing called a J-shaped curve where if you don't drink any alcohol, your risk factor for a heart attack is 1. If you drink 1 or 2 drinks a day, then it drops down to about 0.8. But then if you drink more, then it goes back up way over 1. And so there's this kind of protective window there. And then it became clear that it wasn't only for just heart attacks, but it was for heart failure, strokes. Then they looked at other diseases, rheumatoid arthritis, kidney disease, early diabetes, and even overall mortality. So the data is really pretty strong.
We're talking with Dr. Craig McClain from the University of Louisville. He's the Chief of Research Affairs in the Division of Gastroenterology, Hepatology, and Nutrition, and he's also heading up the Alcohol Center, the Alcohol Research Center at the University of Louisville. So what impact, if I'm a woman and I have a drink per day for a week over the years, what positive impact will that have on my health, other than, as you mentioned, for potentially heart problems that make them go away, or at least not come upon them?
So, certainly a little bit less, but like I say, it's not only heart disease. They've shown it for rheumatoid arthritis. They've shown this for kidney disease. And I said even overall mortality.
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks like kind of all chronic diseases, a little bit of alcohol has a protective effect.
And what are you working on at U of L right now in terms of research on alcohol? What are you trying to figure out?
So we're looking at a bunch of things. We look at the effect of alcohol on the intestine and gut flora. We look at impact on liver disease, which obviously there can be problems. Pulmonary disease, where a lot of alcohol can predispose you to ARDS, let's say, if you came in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And then we look at brain function too, and also in fetal alcohol syndrome in kids. So
a wide spectrum.
Wide spectrum. And what we're really looking at is the impact of nutrition on those things.
And folks who have liver disease,
Right.
the liver damage from
Right.
drinking too much, how much do those folks drink? If one drink is good for me per day, every week, what's bad for me that gets me liver disease?
Right. So we have another big grant coming up with new therapies for alcoholic hepatitis. And so we're a major referral center for people with alcoholic liver disease. And we've actually looked at how many drinks our patients are taking, and it's about 15 drinks a day. So
15 a day?
Yeah, 15. So they don't.
I couldn't even do that in college.
Yeah, they don't slip from 2 to 4. That doesn't cause this kind of problem. So it's a lot of alcohol, and from a nutrition point of view, that's like over 2,000 calories a day.
Mm-hmm.
So that's over half their caloric needs. And those calories are empty calories, so there's not like a lot of good protein or vitamins or minerals in that. So that's where the nutritional problems come from.
And the patients you were looking at that they're drinking 15 drinks a day, is that all the patients you're looking at? Or is that the average, or are some just having a 6-pack a day?
Well, there are a few that are down at a 6-pack a day, but that's the average.
15.
So 15's the average. So there's some that are actually drinking more.
And how long does it take for a person to drink 15 drinks a day? How long does it take them to develop liver disease?
So that's the good thing, is it doesn't happen overnight. And for most of these people, it's 10 years or more.
Okay.
So it's not just a quick thing.
But if you start at 30, by 40, you're going to have liver problems.
Yeah, you certainly could.
If you drink that much.
Yeah.
And are you looking for anything in your labs or in your research that, would mitigate that?
So that's our big thing, is trying to prevent these kinds of problems or treat them. So, and we're doing it from a nutritional perspective. So we've got a thing called a probiotic, good bacteria for the GI tract. And we have a specific one, Lactobacillus GG, got a long name, but
easy for you to say.
Yeah, but it actually is highly protective. A trace metal zinc, a nutritional supplement. We've got some fantastic research on that. So there are a whole host of things that we're looking at.
Let's talk a little bit about gut bacteria and microbiota. What is that?
So this is something that we've known about for a long time, but really intense investigation in a variety of disease states has really happened over maybe the last decade or so. And so if you look at you or me, we have a bunch of cells in our body, but there are 10 times as many bacteria in our GI tract as we have cells in our body.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And they have 100 times more genes than we do. And so you could look at it grossly and say we're just basically a receptacle for our gut bacteria. And they don't just sit there. They have a bunch of metabolic functions that they do. And so the gut bacteria are very, very important. They modulate our immune system. They make vitamins. They use nutrients that we take in. They make nutrients. So it's a critically important thing. And as we know now, they're involved in a host of chronic diseases.
Well, the microbiota, are they good or bad, or both?
They're both.
Okay.
And
so what's the good they do? You mentioned a couple things.
Well, and the good they do is they're important to help fight off diseases. So you need good microbiota. And if you get too many of a bad type, C. difficile colitis is a good example.
C. diff?
Yeah.
That's something you get in hospitals, isn't it?
Mostly in hospitals, and it's usually after courses of antibiotic therapy. So the antibiotics have changed your gut flora and wiped out a lot of the good bacteria, so this one bad type is overgrown. And you get bad diarrhea, you can get very sick, even die from it.
And can we regulate or help grow good microbiota as opposed to getting bad microbiota?
Right, so that's the big thing right now is how can we modulate our gut bacteria to be more beneficial? And so the diet can modulate the bacteria that are there. So
Is this eating yogurt? Is that part of it or not?
Yeah, well, yogurt actually has live bacteria in it.
Okay.
And so that's kind of that's a probiotic in a way. So a probiotic is taking in good bacteria that benefit the host. That's you or me.
Right.
And so you can either buy them in pills or you can take it in yogurt. Then you can have prebiotics, which are foods, usually poorly absorbable starch, that the bacteria eat. And that causes good bacteria to replicate. And then you can even have fecal transplants.
That doesn't sound like anything I want. A fecal transplant, I don't think it's something I want. That doesn't sound
so they use
sound good.
So they use that to cure C. diff colitis in people that have bad cases that nothing else is working. And they're actually making fecal capsules now for certain diseases.
Talking with Dr. Craig McClain from the University of Louisville. What are some of the things that you can do to perhaps, we talked about yogurt, but to perhaps help with nutrition-wise, help your guts and your whole body do a better job of regulating itself and fighting off illnesses and being healthy?
Right. So number one, the less antibiotics you take, the better off you are. Because if you look at children, kids in the United States have about 10 courses of antibiotics by the time they're 10. And the antibiotic use tends to cause overgrowth of, quote, bad bacteria that can lead more to obesity and chronic diseases.
Okay, so that's the one thing. You got a lot of kids and adults that are becoming resistant to antibiotics, right?
Right.
So that's the problem. What else can I do?
Well, some of it's very individualized, but the having more fiber in your diet, for example, that's the poorly absorbed starches and stuff.
Right.
So that's good for the good bacteria.
Okay, and the research you guys are doing on the health and what you eat and diets and those kinds of things, what is it focusing on? Is it focusing on how your diet can impact not only the microbiota and what's in your gut, but also your overall health and other diseases as well?
Exactly, and we're looking at how the gut microbiota can impact a whole host of things. So there's, just to give you an example, gut bacteria can make important things. So one of them is a short-chain fatty acid called butyrate. And this can actually, there's genetics and then there's epigenetics. So this can have epigenetic effects and affect the rest of your body in a positive relationship.
Okay, and so the research, you've got how many researchers down there working on this? We've talked to Kozowitz and a few others, Tad Dryden, and there's several others
so
that are working on this.
Whole host of investigators that are working on different aspects of the microbiome and chronic diseases.
Mm-hmm. And the chronic diseases that you talked about, it seems to become, to me anyways, at least there's more and more being written and talked about these chronic diseases and how your diet and other factors impact
that's absolutely right.
Is that right?
Absolutely. And, obesity is probably our classic one. And, there's a hypothesis that low-grade inflammation plays a role in obesity and all of its chronic problems like heart attacks and strokes. And that inflammation is driven in part by a leaky intestine. So gut-derived products kind of leak across the intestine and get into the bloodstream and stimulate this inflammation.
And are there people with specific diseases or health problems that are going to be some of your subjects as you work on this research at the University of Louisville? Are there anything lupus or anything like that you're specifically targeting?
Absolutely. So we're actually, in my area, we're targeting people with different types of liver disease. So fatty liver disease, alcoholic liver disease. But Dr. Kosowitz is looking at lupus and lupus nephritis. So as you're aware, lupus is a very female-dominated disease, and that relates to gut bacteria. Dr. Dryden is looking at inflammatory bowel disease and green tea polyphenols to treat that. So this may be a very cheap way of treating inflammatory bowel disease that works as good as some of these very special biologics that we use. And then there's affecting the brain. So we have Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
I need that one.
Yeah.
whatever work you're doing there, I volunteer for that.
So Dr. Friedland's working on that.
I know he is.
Right.
Actually, I've talked to him on this program before. All right. So what can we learn out of the last few minutes here, Craig? With that, have a drink a day. That's okay.
Right.
That's potentially good for you.
Right.
Eat yogurt. That's good for you. Stay off antibiotics.
Right.
What else? Any other tips for folks out there?
Exercise and go to the gym. That's good for you too.
Okay.
And often probiotics are good.
Okay, very good. All right, well, good luck with your work at the University of Louisville. I know you got some wide-ranging research going on down there on the Health Sciences campus, so appreciate
Great
you being on the
talking
show.
with you. Thanks.
The Kentucky Pollution Prevention Center's name might be just a little bit of a misnomer. When Director Alyssa McCracken tells us what the KPP does here in just a minute, you might understand what I'm talking about. Welcome, Alyssa. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
What is the KPPC? What do you do?
Well, the word in there, pollution prevention, that does stump quite a few people. And actually, if you think of the word source reduction, it's basically reducing source at the waste at the source, meaning don't generate it. So everybody's heard reduce, reuse, recycle. Mm-hmm. We really focus on the reduce part. And we work with business and industry around the state, just helping them reduce the waste that they generate, either manufacturers in their processes, reduce the toxicity of the chemicals that they're using, make sure that they're getting the most efficient use with water, in their processes, and then a lot with energy efficiency and lighting and equipment usage and that sort of thing.
So it's kind of, you kind of help local businesses with a two-pronged approach.
Yes.
Really. Energy
Right.
efficiency, try and save money on your electric and gas bill, and also try and save money in the process of whatever you're manufacturing, right?
Right, correct.
So how many companies you working with out there in the state of Kentucky? What do you do?
Currently, we have around 25 current companies that we're working with. We really evolve between working with companies, and so we do trainings, we do assessments, we just do, sometimes we call brief assistance, coaching assistance. Somebody will call and need assistance in finding an outlet for a type of waste stream that they have. So it varies, and then the nature, the assessments just take longer between working with companies. But even when we're done with companies with assessments, they continue to stay connected with us and may call us later on and to follow up on things.
Talking with Alyssa McCracken from the Kentucky Pollution Prevention Center at the University of Louisville. How do you even get lined up with these businesses? Do they pick up the phone and call you, or find you somehow and say, hey, I think we're spending way too much money on our energy usage. Can you come in and do an audit for me? Is that how it works?
Well, it is voluntary. So mostly a lot of the recruitment is done by word of mouth by other companies that we've worked with. So we will have a new company call and they'll say, well, I was talking with such and such company and they said you could come in and help them. So that's a big recruitment tool for us. When we go and do trainings, that really gets us out there and gets companies engaged with us. And then other types of resources here in the state, we work closely with the Department for Environmental Protection and the State Energy Office. So they also tell potential clients about our services.
So I own a manufacturing plant in Munfordville, Kentucky, and I'm trying to figure out a way to save money. I've heard about KPPC. I pick up the phone and call you. What happens? Do you personally come out to my plant and do an audit, or what happens?
Well, we start with talking with the company. An engineer, one of our staff engineers, will be talking with the company just to get an idea of what it is that they're looking for and what they need. Sometimes they will call us with a specific question saying we want to do a lighting upgrade. Some of them may say, I'm not sure, I just think we could be doing better, could you help us identify some ways? So we really try to target the assistance because we are statewide and we have limited resources with staffing. So from that point, then we engage the company in whatever way that we can.
All right, what's the Building Operator Certification Program?
Well, this is a really exciting new initiative that we're doing here in the state. It's actually a national credentialed program, and we're bringing it to Kentucky, and the state is actually investing in it. You have to purchase a license from the Northwest Energy Efficiency Council to operate this program. So the state has purchased a license with $44,000, and we're working with the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, which is out of Chicago, who is licensed to support the training and that sort of thing. And we've partnered up with them, and it's actually a program that's going to help building operators become more efficient, learn more about the operational systems, very boots on the ground kind of thing. So then they can, just operate more efficiently, ultimately save money. But personally, for them, it's a career development opportunity.
And this has already started, or it's about to start?
It's about to start. We're right now kicking it off, and the first round is we actually have a call for instructors out. So we're looking for those with engineering capacities and HVAC, the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, lighting efficiencies, those types of things, so we can develop a local instructor pool to help us with putting on these classes. It's an extensive training program. There's 8 training. It's a series of 8 classes. So they go to each of the 8 classes, have to do some homework to get the certification.
And once these plant managers or these plant operators get the certificate, what does it do for them and what does it do for their company?
For them personally, it has them credentialed, and many of them, they've done actually some surveys nationally, the NEC Credential Authorization.
Big word.
Yes. So they've done some surveys, and they've reported that 51% have reported a salary increase, 25% reported a job promotion, 16% received a bonus, and 9% found a new job from it.
Well, that's
good. Personally, there's a lot of benefit. But on the flip side, these companies are sending, their employees to get the training, and they ultimately save money by having informed, educated operators. And survey results have indicated that companies who have sent somebody to participate an average of $10,000 to $15,000 savings a year.
Have you got some examples of particular companies that have saved a bunch of money or been patting you on the back and saying, "Hey, thanks for coming, U of L. You've done a great job"?
Yeah, I know, and that's the thing is that most people just really don't know what we do, and they're opening up their business to us, and we are confidential. So there is a security knowing that we're not going to share information. We only share the names of companies we work with. But we always receive some real positive responses. And for an example, we do what's called a utility bill analysis. So it's simply getting the utility bills for a company for over a 12-month period. We review their rates, their usage, Just kind of look to make sure what it's looking like. And believe it or not, a lot of people are just on the wrong rate. So before we actually do anything.
Oh, really? They're getting charged more than they should be?
Yeah, they're being charged. And that happens just because there's a change in operation. And we actually had one company that was on the wrong rate because they no longer were manufacturing. They just became a distributor. So right off the bat, $1,400 annually they saved. And that's a big thing. That's about 10% of their utility bill. So, that adds up. The other thing is we work with a small machine shop, and it's about 15 people, 16,000 square feet. So, things just as simple as replacing their LED, their exit signs, the bulbs in there. They could save $160 a year, very small. But their lighting upgrade, which is what we worked with them on, and it's important too that we actually evaluate it. We come up with costs. We come up with paybacks, estimated savings, so that it's really a business decision that they're making. We try to help them make that decision. So we were able to identify they could save up to like 35% of their energy bills by replacing their lighting, and that was about $5,400 a year with a payback of about a little over a year.
Very good.
So, yeah.
All right, we're talking with Lisa McCracken, again, from KPPC at the University of Louisville. A couple more things, and as we wrap this up, you've got some seminars or something coming up here in the next couple of months. Why don't you tell me about what's going on?
Yeah, so we've talked some about the energy efficiency and our operator certification, but the other continuing education we're doing for more workforce development is an initiative on sustainable manufacturing. So we're really looking at the hardcore manufacturers to help them identify how to make their products and their processes more sustainable. And we actually just completed the first training series, which is a webinar and a workshop that we did, where we'll be having 2 more webinars and 2 more workshops. But the goal is to kind of take them through the process and let them know, if you're just wondering about how to do it and how to approach it, we're just kind of doing it very, just a little bit of a time, introducing them to looking at a value stream map and how they incorporate sustainability, how they do, just life cycle analysis, those types of approaches.
And real quickly, one of the 2 things coming up, the 2 registration events that you got coming up. When are they?
So we have a webinar that'll be in. Let's see.
One's January 25th. When's that?
The webinar is January 11th.
Okay.
And the workshop is January 25th. And so the workshop's actually going to be here on U of L's campus at the GE First Build.
Okay.
And we'll take a tour of that and see what's happening there.
And for people who are interested, how do they track you down at KPPC if they are a company and they want your services? How they do that?
So you just go to www.kppc.org, and there's instant information on there about, you can just say, seeking technical assistance, and give us an email, or our phone number's on there. And we have a staff listing. Give me an email. We'll get you covered.
Very good. Lisa McCracken, Director of KPPC at U of L. Appreciate it. Thanks for listening to U of L Today with Mark Hebert, and go Cards.